We know from past interviews with you that you're a huge supporter of all things environmental to take care of our state. You serve on the Conservation and Environment Committee. In previous appearances, you've discussed and I forgot what you called it, the raising the mountaintops off and different things like that. What are you looking at this go-round?
Well, I have that bill again this time. It's called mountaintop removal, and you know, it's catching on. That is slowly and gradually catching on. People are beginning to realize that you have a short-term gain when you blow off that mountaintop to get to that high sulfur coal. It's a short-term gain compared to the long-term benefit of tourism and a healthy tourist economy in Tennessee. Tourism is extremely important to our state. I think we ought to be doing everything we can to make our state as attractive as possible. And here's what we've got, Nancy. We've got a situation where we blow off mountaintops, get to that coal, and then the carbon, when you burn that coal, it makes its way over to North Carolina, and then the state of North Carolina, their people get sick, so they sue TVA for burning that coal. And one of the new plants, or it's actually an older plant, but they've actually gone to natural gas to generate power instead of coal, one of the TVA facilities. And then after you burn that coal, guess what you have? Ash. And we all know what happened up at Kingston. So the ratepayers are going to pay over $1 billion to clean up the ash spill. It's still being cleaned up. And now we're learning that we may go from a wet ash disposal system to a dry ash disposal system. Well, dry ash blows. The wind gets up and that ash blows. So it's a recurring problem. And what I would love for us to do, and I think we're doing it, and Tennessee is becoming a leader, is move toward alternative energy sources. You don't do that overnight. We're going to have to continue to burn coal to generate power for a good while to come, probably. And somehow, maybe we can effectively and cost efficiently capture the carbon. There's a lot of talk about burning coal and capturing the carbon and doing something with that rather than let that carbon get in the atmosphere. But anyway, the sooner we can move to clean alternative energy, the better. And it's being done all across the country. Something that I'm very interested in is the unified smart grid, where you can move solar generated power from Arizona to New Jersey, or you can move wind generated power from the Midwest to Tennessee or other places. So that's in the works. Tidal is under consideration. There are just so many options out there. Someday we'll look back at this kind of like we now look at the old rotary dial telephone. We'll wonder how in the world we ever used one of those things. Someday the technology will be in place and we'll look back at the old coal-fired plants and say, why in the world did we ever do that?
Or me trying to explain to my 6-year-old what a record album was. How does that make music? Senator Alexander has made a big push for nuclear energy. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I want to commend Senator Alexander. He has also filed a mountaintop removal bill in Congress and had one of the premier experts in the country testify before his committee in Congress. And we're trying to get that same expert to come to Nashville and testify. The problem with nuclear, and I don't have any specific reluctance about nuclear, except that it just takes so long to get those plants online. They are so very expensive to build. And then you've got to do something with the nuclear waste. It has to be stored somewhere. Now, I think there's one major storage place out west, and perhaps it'll hold a lot of nuclear waste for a long, long time, but that's still a consideration. And obviously, we have nuclear power plants in operation today, and it's a big factor in our power generation.
Might be worse than disposing of ash, ultimately. What's the status of your Drinking Water Access and Resources Planning Act?
I have pushed very hard, as you know, Nancy, to try to get clean drinking water to all of our people here in Sumner County and ideally across the state. What I have been successful in doing is convincing TDOT, and the administration's helped a great deal with this, to create a pilot planning program for northern Middle Tennessee, and that is primarily upper Sumner County. They're also doing one down on the southern Cumberland Plateau. A city down there back during the drought completely ran out of water. Portland almost ran out of water and had to buy water from the White House Utility District. I hope what comes from this is a clear-cut plan on how we go about getting water to the people who need water. And it is a comprehensive planning process. The Corps of Engineers is involved, the municipalities are involved, the utility districts are involved, TDEC in Nashville is involved. So I hope from this planning process we can say, here's what's got to be done, now let's move forward to accomplish this goal of getting clean, safe drinking water to all of our citizens. It's interesting to me, we just got an announcement, Nancy, from North Central Telephone Co-op about a grant they received, and I supported that grant application to extend fiber optic to Upper Sumner County. Well, it's great to have fiber optic to Upper Sumner County, but I'd like for my people to have water as well, and I certainly support the extension of broadband service in our region up there. But I'm going to continue to press for this. Almost every week I'll get some calls from citizens who say, when's the water coming? When is the water coming? And I don't have a clear answer for that. All I know to do is work hard and keep on pressing, and hopefully one day we'll be able to solve the problem.
Right. There's still some discussion about some of the gun legislation that was passed last year. The so-called Guns and Bars bill was ruled unconstitutional in court. Will we see additional debates on gun legislation this go-round?
We probably will, Nancy. I think the leaders in the House and Senate want to let that play out in the courts and see what happens in the courts. And I know Speaker Williams has indicated he's not real anxious to hear a lot of gun legislation this year, but invariably members will propose some, and we'll work on the problem. You know, you've got carry permit holders who obviously want to be able to carry their weapons, and I support the Second Amendment. I have a carry permit. I'm a gun owner, hunter, NRA member. I just believe strongly in the Second Amendment. I believe in that constitutional right. And you have to somehow mesh that with private property ownership. And now, any restaurant owner, and this was part of the legislation that was passed, any restaurant owner, all they have to do is put a sign on the door that says no guns allowed. And what that would do, a criminal can still carry his gun in, but the permit holder, the law-abiding person, would not carry his gun in with that type of sign on the door.
Well, we amazingly are running out of time. We've got just about 2 minutes left. Would you like to touch in that time on anything that you're going to be looking at heavily this year personally?
Nancy, I have a whole list of things.
More than 2 minutes.
One of them is the bottle bill. It's picking up steam. Other states have redemption centers, and when you buy a soft drink in a can, you can return that can and get your nickel back. It's a job-creating opportunity for Tennessee. I've seen it work in other states, and it works well in other states, and I've picked up some good support this time. So I'm optimistic we'll be able to move that through the process. I hope so, and we'll see what happens. But not only do you generate some new jobs at redemption centers, but you also help keep Tennessee clean and beautiful. And to me, that's very, very important.
Yeah, and increase revenue.
And that's right. I'm all for tourism dollars.
Yeah.
You know, former Governor Frank Clement, I know you remember Frank Clement,
sure
he used to say that picking tourists is a whole lot easier than picking cotton. Yeah. And we want tourists to come to Tennessee. We want our mountains to be beautiful, our lakes, our rivers, even our roadsides. Yeah. Make this state as attractive as possible, and the more tourism, the better.
All right. Thank you so much for taking time to be here with us. Well, if you'd like more information or you'd like to contact Representative Mike McDonald, you can reach him at his legislative email address, or you can call his office at 615-741-1980. And we hope you will join us next time right here on Inside Politics.